Good morning, good afternoon, LinkedIn friends. Welcome to another episode of Let's Build a HubSpot Super Admin with Lucy Abal. How you doing today, Lucy?
Hey Grace, how are you? Happy to
I'm
be here
good.
as usual.
Yes, doing good. Week before the holiday here in the U.S. And you just got to have some fun at the HubSpot Grow Europe event, yeah?
Yes. I wanted to share with you guys today some of the top or main ideas that HubSpot shared during the event, just for people that maybe never listened or never heard about Grow event. Let's just define it as a mini inbound event, but Europe based. And well, of course, in dimensions, less amount of sessions, but this year was super AI oriented. So I really like the approach. So I wanted to share with you guys today some of the main ideas
Yeah,
that I
awesome.
got from that.
This
Yeah.
is uh, I really love the way that HubSpot is kind of branching out of inbound to create
Mhm.
these other events, not only like not always in Boston and internationally, but also throughout the year. Because as the product updates so fast, like the idea of waiting until inbound to hear about everything, like it just doesn't work anymore. They've been doing the grow. They've done it a few times now, yeah.
Yes.
And how many have you been to?
Now this was my first event
Okay.
because previous years, I think last year, I'm not sure they did it. The year before, I think it was in Paris. So yeah, this was the first time that I could catch up for the date and go to, in this case, to London.
Cool. So what was let's start with your biggest takeaway from the event.
So I really like the different approach HubSpot had for this event. So even though, as I was saying, it was a smaller event, every talk was super AI oriented with a lot of updates, and the approach was more, I could say, practical. So you really get the idea of how to start implementing all the AI features. And I love some stories that Keith Bollard and Nick Holland shared with the audience that I wanted to share to you also today, because it really shows the struggle that people or companies are currently having with AI, the fear, the lack of knowledge of information, the lack of understanding of what this impact or how this will impact your businesses. But the good news was, okay, this is the way to solve it, to approach it. And I could say that the main idea is go for hybrid teams, that we already know, we have been saying it, but I think it was the first time that I really heard it from HubSpot's mouth, let's say, because we've been encouraging agents, we've been talking about a lot about assistants, but it wasn't so much the idea of pushing hybrid teams and put it inside of companies. So that was really the approach of this event, and I really like it. I really think that this resonated with most of the people that was there. Most of the audience wasn't partners. Difference maybe with inbound, that is a bigger event attracting a lot of partners and of course a lot of customers and prospects too. And the idea, of course, on how to implement it. All the talks were super straightforward on how to go to action, how to do this, do that, implement these agents, enable your data, train your teams. So I think it was for everyone that was there and really paid attention. They had Everyone was writing a lot on their on their notepads and trying to take advantage of everything, because I really think that it was a really good event and people could take notes about what to do next. But that is the most difficult part. I think that in all the past couple of months, we've all been talking about, yes, agents and assistants and AI, but it was difficult to materialize how to start doing it in HubSpot, how to start doing it for your business. Because every company is different and they have a different grade of maturity and of usage of HubSpot. But this was so much clearer for everyone, and myself got really cool ideas on how to explain it better for customers, for trainings. I think it was really productive.
Okay. I think what's interesting is that when you talk about where to start, is it any different than always? Like
No.
as far as getting your data ready, like gotta get your data, the data model understood and documented, your processes understood and documented. Maybe a difference now is understanding AI is involved in that, but yeah, what's your take there?
Yeah, I think that first step, of course, is not changing. And I think actually everyone reinforced the idea of the importance of the CRM and the data in there. So, but what we're calling now the smart CRM in HubSpot is this ability of using AI to read, to complete, to update information, to try to fill those gaps. But of course, there are gaps that cannot be filled because but cannot be completed because only your company, only your SDRs, your BDRs, your salespeople are the ones that could complete that information because maybe it's an internal categorization, maybe it's just differentiating who's your prospect from a vendor. That AI is a little bit harder. I'm not saying that it's never gonna know, it's just a little bit harder for AI to understand that. So it's still, again, it's a hybrid approach, is something that AI can help you, but we should always need the human supervision to complete that. But for sure, the first step is unite and organize your data. That is, of course, always the first step. And regarding HubSpot tools, of course, we have mentioned smart properties, enrichment, of course, all of these tools may involve credits. Of course, we also have other external tools that you can connect. A lot of the use of Data Hub to either connect external platforms or complete or process or clean up the data. Data Hub or Operations Hub, as we used to know it, has a lot of new tools about data quality and how to keep up and clean up all the data. And I think that people need to start taking more advantage of that, especially when we're talking about big portals with a lot of contacts, with a lot of records, with a lot of information there. Of course, if you're just starting, if you're a startup, or if you're in starter level and you have only 100 records, 100 contacts, I'm not saying this is not going to be useful to you. Of course, it's going to be useful, but maybe it's still not worth, or it's more difficult for you to see the value for the investment of money that you're going to be doing. But when we're talking about portals with 10,000, 20,000 or more records, and I'm not saying only contacts, I mean records, for sure, this is going to be useful, right? And this has always been the worst part, the struggle of every admin, the struggle of every company. Today I had a client telling me, yes, I still have a lot of contacts, old contacts that came from the migration for Pipedrive from another platform. And nobody's touching them, nobody's working them. I don't even know if they are still in that company or not. So I said, okay, so what are we going to do? Because yes, you can have 10,000 contacts, but if those contacts, you're not doing anything, you don't know if they are still valid or not. So we should take action. We should know, we should define what are we going to do. Are we going to erase them? Are we going to validate? Is someone going to be checking where did they go? Who is in its place? So yeah, data is and it's still going to be the most challenging part of the CRM. But the good news is that once you have worked on that, once you can ensure that, and let's just not lie to people, because you can never assure that 100% of your data is accurate, clean, and perfect. But if you could say that at least 70, I wish 80%, but let's just say 70% is already very good. It's a very good number. So if you already have at least 70% of your database complete, accurate, updated, I think you had a solid base to start running more accurate processes with AI, right? Because AI, when we're talking about hybrid teams, is not only enabling assistants or agents. Hybrid means that AI is going to step over what you did, what it's already built, and it's going to accelerate that process, right? It's not that it's only creating by its own ways or own purpose, like could be, for example, a prospecting agent, but it's
Yeah.
going to step over what you already built, what your team is actually making sure is proper and correct, so that then we can accelerate all the other processes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the first step is always data. We're not gonna avoid that step, and we shouldn't either way.
Right. And like it definitely starts with not making assumptions about what these words mean. Like, because you mentioned 70, 80%. And I hear, friends like Clement Robat that are focused on helping people with this issue. Like, you have to develop some level of comfort with some amount of the data not being in good shape, which to me means like you have to define what the word clean means for your organization. And it's really as simple as like understanding the process, object to object. Which data which properties and fields do we care about? Do we want to have? Do we need to have? And what is the expectation around those being, filled in? Because AI and HubSpot are bringing in lots more data, all the signal stuff that's happening. Like they're giving you access to a ton more data. And if you don't set this foundation, it'll be very easy to see that new data versus the data that you've always cared about. And all of a sudden there's just an unknown. You're like, oh no, our data is not good. When in reality, like this could still be happening really well. And once you set that foundation, you can go look at these signals and start to understand like how it fits in and how it builds on that foundation. You had this event like right at the end of the super admin boot camp, right?
Yes.
What is the uh, like your main takeaway from the boot camp and then seeing grow, like the gap between what HubSpot provides and how they talk about AI and the admin understanding of what's happening?
Well, I think that what we always say in the Super Admin Bootcamp is that a super admin, and we're not talking, of course, always as from the permissions point of view in HubSpot, more from the role. A super admin should always understand the whole business process. And I think that right now, after this event, more than ever, you can see how being able to, or thinking about enabling the tools that we might be mentioning today and that we have been hearing about ever since inbound, you need to understand really well how all of these new tools work together. And that is the most difficult part, I think. Oh, well, I don't know if the most difficult, but it's like the second step. So you said, okay, we have the data. And I wanted to mention just one quick thing that you said that I think is really important. Let's just not confuse complete data with accurate data, because we have all been testing a lot of platforms. We have Clay, we have Salesforce Navigator, LinkedIn Navigator, we have Salesforce Sync. All of the CRMs have a lot of sources of information. All of those sources are different. So having a property completed, even if you had it completed in the 100% of your records, that doesn't mean that the information is accurate, because different platforms have different ways of working industry, for example, and we have discussed this in past episodes. So just be careful about that, because sometimes we are relying on seeing the amount of completion of a property, or maybe doing these dashboards tending to zero when we have information incomplete, and we could still have discrepancies. Of course, I'm not going to argue that better than have it with no values. I prefer to have a tentative value that AI kind of suggested that may or may not be the most accurate one, but at least we have something. Yes, of course. But again, let's just not lie to ourselves that just because our property is completed is accurate. So I just wanted to mention that before going to the next step. So, okay, let's just imagine that an information is completed and accurate. So now, how do we enable all the other tools? Because now we need to take advantage of all the tools that we have, and we have a lot of things in Marketing Hub. We have a lot of tools still in what we call Sales Hub. We have a lot of assistants, agents. We have the target accounts. We have the buyer intent. So how do we orchestrate all of these so that the tools are set up and the people has the right tools and have the right processes running so that they can keep doing what they do better? And one of the well, I'm going to go with another example, and then I'm going to come back. So one of the first things that Nicole actually talked about is the easier way to see it is with sales, right? So we have a lot of tools that we can use for the sales team. And I actually was having this same discussion yesterday with a customer. So you have marketing, doing a lot of marketing actions. You have growth or PPC teams doing ads to generate leads. Then you generate the leads, but you still don't know because you need to qualify them. So you have their blur process in the middle. And then you need to hand off all of that big bucket of leads to the sales team. Or, of course, you can have SDRs and BDRs generating leads on their side. So how do we unify all of these? How do we enable the tools in the CRM to start having more information about that? Because so far, and I think I started to notice this more now than before, CRMs had become in the past couple of years like a dumpster of information where everyone dropped everything they had, imports every database that we can, and yes, sync everything that we have, yes, send every email. Yes, but then nobody was watching, nobody was analyzing what was happening. So the first thing that I can see AI really helping in the CRM, and I personally had this discussion with Nick Holland, that is the AI product VP in HubSpot, is we need more AI dashboards to analyze and to understand your current situation. Hey, you have all these amount of contacts that are not being worked. Hey, this hasn't been sent an email or enrolled in a marketing campaign or touched by the salespeople in the past year. Or, for example, go and check if that contact is still valid, if that email is still correct. All of that ideas, all that analysis that takes a lot of hours for the super admins especially, those are going to really give the insights for the teams to really know what to do. Because we can have all the right tools in the world, but if we don't know what to do, who's going to be using that? So we talk a lot about triggers and super admins, and everyone that loves to do workflows love to have cool triggers and being able to call everything from everywhere. But if we don't know the triggers, if we don't know when, why, and who is going to be targeted and to do what, it doesn't matter how many tools that we have. So again, we always come up to these definitions, to this idea of really embracing AI at a company level and not only in a specific team, or not just because we have this new cool feature in HubSpot. So AI is coming to really transform the way that companies work. And one of the examples that I wanted to share, and now we will come back to the tools, Keith Bollard actually talked about the HubSpot reality and experience, and he said that last year HubSpot lost 140 million visits to their website. So you could say, wow, how did they survive? And the first question is, okay, why? SEO versus AEO. Okay, so people stop searching in Google and start asking all the tools that we already know, ChatGPT, Gemini. So now you have a different scenario where people used to get more than 10 results with the links in one page. Now you have one bot that is answering what they want, what they consider is the best option, and giving you one, two, three options, maybe. If you ask for more, they will give you more. But that means that your possibilities have reduced in such a way that people really don't dimension that. I don't think that companies currently understand the importance of this situation. And I really liked that. I hope that this story is true, because I really liked the cruelty of that information, the reality, and how they share it. And of course, they told how they tried to fix it. So that is the first thing that we need to consider. The market is changing, even if we want it or if we don't want it. How people are investigating. They arrive at your website. First, you need to be found by, for example, ChatGPT. The answer engines, they need to give you as an option, as an answer. And that would mean that you still need to do all the SEO stuff that you were doing before. And we're not talking about quantity now, we're talking about quality. Having the right content, having the, of course, all the right answers to the questions that people may be asking these engines. So positioning is still the same, but now how we are going to be indexed is a little bit different. So we need to understand those rules. So HubSpot has, for example, the AEO grader, the same way that it used to have the SEO website grader in the past. So I think that is one of the first things that we need to understand. How are we positioned in this new market, in this new game? Because the game changed. So now we need to understand, okay, what is this new board look like? What are the new rules? And now we need to understand, if we want to keep playing, what do we need to adjust to keep playing? So there's a new AEO place in HubSpot coming soon that they show at the event, that is going to help us understand that. It's going to help us understand our positioning in front of all these answer engines. What are our optimization options? What are we not good at? So that we can start working on that, right?
Was that the Loop scorecard that was shared, or is that something different?
No, something different, something different. It's a
Okay.
new section, but it's still not. I need to ask, when are they launching that?
Oh, the AI tool, the AEO tool in
Yes.
HubSpot. Okay.
Yes.
Um,
So
yeah.
I think that that is going to be one of the best things, at least for marketing teams, just try to understand the impact of this, because everyone is seeing a drop in visits, everyone is seeing a drop in the amount of leads generated from PPC. So they're not trying to answer why or to understand why. They're just trying to push harder and put more money and try to force the situation, instead of understanding, hey, wait, this is changing. Let's just stop, breathe, think again, and recalculate, right?
Yeah. And oh man. Yeah, watch any of my other content if you want to learn how to transform into this world. But my best analogy right now, because a lot of this, like when you understand how that traffic was created, how the leads were created, it's like, of course, like why is anybody surprised by this? And my example is when COVID was happening, and like, so all of the in-person events got canceled for a while, right? And the company I was at, like, they brought me in to build out like digital marketing infrastructure to support. They were going to 150 shows per year, and those just went away like with snap of a finger. And so of course they started doing webinars and stuff like that. But as soon as we could, we started going back to shows, right? Which was like middle of 21. And the first shows that we went to, because it was still not everybody was okay with traveling everywhere, and it was definitely a different world like we were living in. When you go to these shows, like attendance cut in half, right? But every single person who was there and stopped by the table was a guaranteed qualified individual to talk to, right? So there's no more students, no more people kicking the tires coming to these shows, because it wasn't just oh, maybe we'll go check this thing out today. Anybody who was there was going there with intention and like meaning, because it often there was hurdles in the way of getting to these events because of COVID, and we got to pass all these restrictions, right? So when they do show up, when they do the work, and I think the same can be applied for your website. Like there's so many places that people look, like social and Reddit and YouTube and all these things. Then when they're really serious and ready to chat, like super qualified and knowing who you are and what their problem is and how you fit, that's when they come to your website, right? And you need to
Yeah.
be ready to capture and help them convert when that happens. And there's been an example that I want to share that I've been talking about all week, because it's related to signals and it can take us into agents and like getting AI help with this, right? And believe me, I've never thought at the beginning of the year I'd be talking about buyer intent data in a positive way. But here we are. HubSpot's introduced it, and I think they're doing a great job. But this moment of understanding this data and what it means to your organization, like twofold, just the fact that it exists, right? And you can decide like which types of signals to check out. But this is an example, right? Leadership content. Uh, Imagine a VP or a CTO of a data center, like is your ICP, right? And they publish an article, right? Do you know what action to take or what that means for your scoring or whatever you're tracking? Or are you just going to say, hey, salesperson, hey, SDR, this thing happened. So go ahead and send another not good email that says, oh, I saw you wrote an article. That was cool. Here, let's set up a demo. Like, no, don't do that. But notice the things that are here in terms of, topic, author's job title, when it happened, and then this summary here, right? All of these things are now, as we start talking about agents, are opportunities to update the data structured uh, in our system. And depending on like how this opens, sometimes it gives me the name of the person, sometimes it doesn't, but I've not seen the correct name yet, right? I went and found this article, and it's I think his name is Mike or Mark, right? Not this person's name. So if we were relying on that completely, this is where I think one of the themes from the event was AI creates and humans curate. This is one of those things where you have to confirm that this is actually like giving good information to, and what are you going to do? Like, so this is to Lucy's point, it's probably 80%, 90% good, except one of the most important pieces of it, if you were to be updating based on job title and person's name and like adding to your CRM, which you can do now, like it would not add the right person. And then if you've got all the other things set up of like, okay, contact record comes in, company comes in, enrich, 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 it's going to just give you a whole bunch of not good data. So that's something to be aware of. But also, I like highlighting, look at this little, like, like kind of funnel here, right? Top page views, recent page views, research, signals about, okay, they're ready. Let's make them a contact, right? HubSpot is just giving you this stuff like on a silver platter if you hit the button. And by the way, most people that I run into are not using their credits at all right now. So you could turn this is a great way to use your credits, as long as you don't just like open the floodgate and just don't look at the signals, right?
And
Because
this was always in the CRM, not exactly like this because it has grown a lot, but this was always in the CRM and people never look at it. So something that I thought, because maybe we think, okay, but this is only for an SDR or BDR. Yes and no. No. Why? Because, for example, PPC people, or it doesn't matter, marketing people, when you're doing ad campaigns, you're always focused on the context that you convert. But what about the other? If you have a good conversion rate, you're going to be converting 10%, 50%, just to say. What happens to the other 90% that doesn't convert? So this tool at least shows you the companies that are visiting your website, but they have dropped before converting in any type of conversion that you have in your website. But at least if you take a look at this section, you get to see and to know when someone is looking at you. If you have the contact in the CRM, fantastic, because you're gonna see if it's some of those contacts, you're gonna see the person, the contact's name, and which pages they visited. If you don't have it, you're just going to see the company. But what should we do with this information? Okay, first you can add it to your CRM. Then you can get more context, as Chris was saying. But also configuring all that area and putting all the right keywords that you want to monitor, the intent that you want to track, is going to give you much more information. For example, I was seeing this yesterday with a client saying, okay, but what are the keywords that you're targeting in ads? Are those the same keywords that we are tracking intent here? Are those the same keywords that we're seeing that people are looking at you and that you are being popping up for them? So are we matching all those things? Because in the end, every marketing campaign, every action that we do, it's about alignment. We cannot be telling one message in our ads, showing another message in our website, then the SDRs or BDRs or the people filtering or qualifying, talking about anything else, arriving to the sales team doing something else and having old presentations or newer presentations with much more accurate and updated content, and then selling something completely different. That is the worst thing that all companies do, and they don't realize. So this area of buying intent is giving us much more to look, to analyze, to understand not only the companies that are seeing us, that we could be proactively approaching and that we could discover about new opportunities and new potential customers, the things, the terms, the research intent, the signals that they are giving us, how are they finding us, if we are also positioning ourselves in those keywords, let's say, ideas, concepts, topics, let's just say. And what else are we doing with those other topics? Are we all aligning as a company around that? Because that is the most important thing. So as the same way that we talk about strategy and processes when we're thinking about implementing HubSpot, this is the foundation of all your marketing and business communications, understanding and aligning all your messages. If you're not doing this right, if you're not using this section to be testing that, yes, we're going to get this cool new area of AO that is going to tell us how to be positioned between, for these new engines. It's going to tell you awful 20%. And what are you going to do? What are you going to go and look? Are you still going to go and pay SEMrush at tons of amounts of money to try to understand what you should be positioning at? We have the tools in HubSpot. Let's just stop wasting our money outside, but let's just start dedicating time, because yes, HubSpot is giving us more tools, but we need to dedicate the time to analyze them, to understand, and to build the connections, to build the bridges. It's not only the super admin responsibility. The super admin can tell, hey, marketing team, We have this new section. I think this could be useful for you for this, and this. But for you too, sales team, because we are discovering new companies here. We are seeing them. We are aggregating. We are spending credits in adding them to the CRM. What are you going to do? And then, yes, we have all these leads, we have all these prospects that have been installed here that we haven't been doing anything else. Okay, how are we going to approach it? Are we going to use the prospecting agents? Are we going to use, I don't know, whatever other tools that we're going to be using? So if we see this as a whole movie, and the whole business process of generating leads, nurturing them, trying to identify opportunities, connecting from the sales team with them, and trying to sell to them, how all HubSpot tools fit into those processes, that is our responsibility to understand. The tools are there, yes, but I think so far it has been difficult to people to understand that how each team can take advantage of all of these tools. And again, part of the conversation at the Grow event and what Nick actually started showing is this story of okay, yes, we're going to unify data using this and these tools. Then we're going to be enabling the teams with this and these and these tools. We're going to use the prospecting agents. We're going to use the assistants. Assistants is going to become one of the most powerful tools, and he actually mentioned it. His goal is for everyone to have it in every screen across HubSpot and to be using it to consult about everything. So I really discussed with him the idea of having more information about reports, more help analyzing trends, benchmark, a lot of information that customers want to have. So he promised he will take a look at that. So let's just cross our fingers. But we are having that amazing tool that people are afraid of using. Assistants are free, and he promised to keep them free, not agents, assistants. So let's take advantage of that. So we can use HubSpot normal assistants, or we can build our own assistants if we have specific needs. One of the questions that one lady did during one of the sessions was, hey, I have a very specific industry. We have a lot of very technical terminology, abbreviations. And my worst challenge is that all of the AI tools don't understand those abbreviations. Every time that I use meeting notes, note takers, they don't understand the translation, the transcript is off. They put something, of course, of wrongfully mistaken. So what can I do? Yes, of course, those are type of challenges. Maybe the normal assistant is not going to help you, but if you build your own custom assistant and you train it and you give it a full glossary of all your terminology, I can guarantee you that for sure this is going to help your process CRM to start having a little bit more accurate information. But if you have never done that, if you don't instruct the CRM, please remember my glossary every time that you're doing an insight analysis, a conversation intelligence summary. Please have this in mind. That is already gonna put you. I'm not promising that this is gonna solve all of your problems, but that's gonna put you at least one step further in your way of doing your own CRM with your own terminology and using all the AI in that area.
Yeah. And I
But
think
people
like,
don't know it, so
yeah, well, that's the first question. And this is where admins, I think there's some very clear steps beyond just the usual data governance. And that's like that person that said that, I would be like, all right, let's see your data sources. Like, have you completed your AI data sources settings area of HubSpot? And then I do think it takes us into, the assistants and the agents. And I'm kind of feeling like there's two paths here that an admin might want to consider. And it's either, because I think the challenge of all this is trying to prioritize the time it takes to understand and learn and like implement while you're used to doing things a very specific way and you have tasks to get done every day, they don't always exist in HubSpot, right? We've got a lot of things on our plate every day. So there's a way to use agents and assistants to handle all the menial tasks that you know exactly how to do, what needs to get done, like, and that using them in that way can free up that time and space to do the other things that we're talking about. But also using agents and assistants to help with the other thing that we're talking about, which is the data cleanup, understanding what the portal shape is in, the audits, the account cleanup, that kind of stuff. What are you seeing the people be more comfortable with, like when it comes to those options? Or are you seeing people do other things when it comes to agents and assistants?
So I think the first thing that they tend to try is the assistant. I think people are still very afraid of agents for two reasons. The first one, credit consumption. I think people are still super afraid of credits and of measuring that. Okay, let's just forget about that. But agents have a little bit more customization. Of course, if it's the first time, it's going to take you maybe half an hour. If you still need to understand everything, if you need to go check, search, whatever you need to understand first. But I can tell you what that when you do things right, today I was customizing the customer agent for a customer specifically for the WhatsApp channel. And as soon as I told the customer agent, please have in mind this website, I can tell you that as they have all the information needed in the website, they have the fact section, they have all the premeditated questions with the answers. I just customized that. It was amazing the way the customer agent replied with all the accurate information, with all the possibilities of, hey, if you need to consult more about this product, you can visit this section, and he gave the link to that specific section. I was, wow. I still get myself amazed when we do the things right and they work the way we're so used to be frustrated and things not working the way that we want. That once people do the things right, there's not so much effort needed. The agent already knows what to do, knows what to look for. It's like when you have, I don't know, your kids or your partner or someone that is helping you in the house. When you tell them where everything goes and what to look for each thing, they don't need you all the time. But what's the problem? If you're not clear about that, if you put one day one thing here and another day another thing there, of course, then you have your husband asking, where are the keys? Where is the milk? We're in the same place. No, they're not in the same place
Or
because
they're
you're
just like,
changing places.
or like me sometimes, like you're the one that cleaned last. I don't know where you put stuff when so I'm not doing that thing, right? I don't know where to get it. Like, so you know where it is, right?
Exactly. But the agent in this case, when you have everything complete and you give him or give him or her, right, the information, they know what to do. And they can be autonomous. They can really answer properly. And I try a lot of conversations because I faked being a distributor, I faked being a client that wanted to put an order, I faked being a prospect, I asked about, I don't know, payment method. I did all the ugly questions. It replied to me every time. It did the handoff whenever I instructed to do the handoff to a specific agent. So things can work properly, but of course, it depends of you having the accurate data, of you having your website organized, giving the documentation, the right instructions. And yeah, it will take you a little bit of time. It will take you a little bit of testing, but once you do it, you're gonna say how I didn't do this earlier. Why was I waiting to be testing this?
Every single time. And this is like, you're not alone in this hurdle to get over, because we talk about time, but it's really about trust. And since we don't know what the thing is and what impact it might have on our portal, right?
Yes.
It's easy to hesitate. And but even like when I say you're not alone, even Nico and I, like Nico is one of the, I'd say he's in the top 1% of AI users like in the world. And as Google dropped another model, he was like, "Yeah, I wanted to get to it last night, but I I I just didn't get there. And then this morning it was 2 clicks and bam, I understood immediately how powerful it was." And that's where when you look at all the options here, it's easy to just be like, "Oh my God, like where do I start?" But look at these very specific ones, right? Especially if you documented your processes and you have FAQs, like this internal FAQ assistant, right?
Yes.
When we talk about ways to use these tools to make space for you to understand what else is going on, like this is the kind of thing where if you have all the documentation and you teach your team how to use this, no longer are you the specific go-to for every single question that comes up, right? And this has been very powerful when people start to engage it. Again, it comes back to needing documentation and context for this to be a valuable thing. But on the other side of this, we see ICP assistant and brand assistant, right? So on the
Yeah.
other side of trying to understand what's happening in your system, understand like how good is your documentation, like even if you need help going to like build out the AI data sources settings area, that's where these guys start to come into play. And this is where like you've got a PDF somewhere, you've got a page on your website, you've got something, if it's an email from a salesperson describing the customer and what they care about, you don't have to start from scratch to be able to start building out this capability within like yourself and within your HubSpot. And if you do it within your HubSpot, that enables your team. This is part of the unified context like layer that we've been talking about. And like these are the ones that are likely to be free for the foreseeable future. Almost every AI company is making this distinction between assistants and agents, right? Where
Yes.
assistants are there to help when you need them, but they're not going to act without you asking them to do something, where agents are built to give them the plan and then they go do it, right?
Yeah, and assistants are internal for your team. When agents can interact outside with your prospects, with your customers, of course they can interact inside too, but they're mainly thought, they're like the evolution of chatbots, let's just say, while
Yeah.
assistance is internal. And it's weird because this week, and actually there were some questions in during the event, people are just right now discovering custom GPT agents. And I was hearing, okay, yeah, you arrived late because these have existed for, I don't know, 2 years. 1 year, just to be sure, 1 year. So you're just hearing about that and getting excited about that. But I was thinking, and actually one of the academy instructors asked them, but why would you do it outside HubSpot when now you can have assistance for free inside HubSpot? Oh yeah, I haven't thought about that. So people are not seeing the tools in this similarity, but actually overstepping the challenge of having them outside HubSpot. So yes, of course, ChatGPT is ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity. You can also connect them to HubSpot, but if you're thinking about building your own custom agent outside in there instead of doing it inside HubSpot, I would recommend you first try creating your custom assistant inside HubSpot. And then if you get stuck or you don't get at least what you want, first of course I would recommend giving feedback to HubSpot, because all of the feedback that we can do and give is going to be the only tool that the product team has to improve it. So if we don't give feedback, they don't know what to do. But then just have that in mind. People don't have to go outside HubSpot, don't have to switch, don't have to. The other day, for example, I have a challenge with a client that because of the type of users and seats, most of the team couldn't access snippets. So they were already thinking about doing a GPT agent with all the snippets for them to consult. Wait, no, no. Let's just do, if you want, the snippet assistant. And you can ask, and the assistant is going to tell you the code of the snippet and then give you the information, and you just copy paste. Oh, they said, easy as that. So
Yeah.
sometimes we're overcomplicating things. We have the tools. Of course, I can understand that this will take a while until people get used to having that or be creative about the tools, because tools are tools. It depends on how are we implementing them or how we are taking advantage of them. But there's so many cool type of uses for assistants. HubSpot is trying to help us with those templates and with all those pre-made. But the other day, for example, I built my own agent to be able to propose something as stupid as social media posts. And you said, oh, yeah, but that's obvious. That's so stupid. Yeah, but we didn't have it because the one that HubSpot did was only worried about specific dates that had nothing to do with my business. So I got tired of having that. I turned it off and I created my own custom agent. Okay, now I have my own custom agent proposing my posts, my social media posts. Then I just put them in the scheduler in the social media area, add, and I actually have them even if I want with an image, even with the hashtags, everything. So I just need to review them if I want. Yeah, but of course I want. Review them and then just publish them or schedule them.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
the sky is the limit now. It's just that we need to understand what we want, what we need, and how we are going to be actually focusing in a specific challenge or in a specific goal. Because, for example, yesterday my client was telling me, now we are planning all 2026 and the credits. And wait. How are we going to be using the credits next year? Because now we are purchasing a bigger package of credits. How are we going to use it? Okay, yes, enrichment is going to be one part and all the automations that we have, and the agent is going to be. What are we going to do with the rest? Because we are going to kill each other for the credits. Oh, yeah, so what should we do? Let's put goals. What are the goals and challenges that teams have? Let's prioritize that. And then we will see with AI and with the credits, of course, regarding priority, how are we going to start solving? And if we need, let's just try to look for the quick wins that are going to enable us more budget to get more credits to be able to get more and more traction with all of this. So we need to start actually thinking strategically about all the tools that we're going to implement, the credits that we're going to be using, especially if you're thinking about that we are going to a credit consumption model. So we need to start understanding that. And yes, of course, we can solve for all the processes, we can solve for all the teams, but we need to have that clarity, right?
yeah. Um, Man, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for sharing your experience at Grow. There's so much we didn't get into.
Yeah.
But I'd love next time to talk about this trust element um, and trust building, because it's a different way to think about uh, how people use the CRM overall, the platform overall, because AI is going to be there. And if they don't trust it, it's another barrier to entry. And if the questions were like, okay, why aren't you using, you know, why don't you fill this stuff out on the contact record or the company record, or what, you do the task, but then you don't check it off. Like, help us understand why you don't use the CRM as we've described it needs to be used. Now it's like, we were all in the meeting and we said we're going to use AI assistant, and now you're not using it. Like, what is the barrier? And I guarantee you will get to trust, some level of trust issue with why I don't click that assistant button when it very easily in the demonstrations can do so much and save so much time. I would love to dig into that with you as it relates to what super admins can do to help build that trust, because it's so important right alongside data readiness. And honestly, as we have access to all these tools, like it will get you to data readiness like much faster when you aren't the only one that cares about data readiness. Right. So
Yes.
I'd love to dig into that with you next time. But this has been awesome. And any last words from or any final thoughts as it relates to the Grow event?
Well, I think that we all, given that we are already November 20th, I think we can take this time of holidays, even if it's Thanksgiving, even if it's Christmas to come and New Year's Eve, this time of the year to start actually planning how are we going to really improve the way businesses are working, even if it's from the marketing point of view, from the positioning, SEO, AEO, even if it's going to be from the sales performance point of view, even if it's going to be from the closing point of view, because one of the metrics that Nicole shared is that 80% of the deals get stalled because people forget about them and they just stick to the, oh, I didn't get any other reply, and they die there. So we cannot keep that happening because this is impacting businesses. So I think it's a great time of the year to understand, okay, or to measure. Most of the companies are already doing the reporting of the year, already starting to build their annual reports. So take that time, analyze, and start identifying the points that you're going to be working or prioritizing for next year in order to start implementing all of these amazing tools that we have and that we will get also in the next couple of weeks and months to start actually improving our businesses and transitioning into that hybrid teams and actually measuring how this is changing the way that we work, because it is changing it. Even if you want or if you don't want, it is changing it. So I really want to give people that idea of start planning, start thinking new year, new energy, new tools, new credits, new everything. So we have the chance. It's just that we need to plan a little bit. Everyone is already planning their budget. So yeah, I think it's a great time to really understand how you're going to implement those marketing sales plans for next year with all of these AI tools, right?
I agree. And with that, I hope everybody enjoyed today and found some nuggets of value. And we'll see you in a couple weeks after the Thanksgiving holiday. Thanks so
Yes.
much, Lucy.
Enjoy your holidays. Thank you and talk to you soon.